The truth is not hidden because it is shameful. It is hidden because it is complicated. And in royal life, complexity is dangerous. People keep asking about Sheikh Hamdan's marriage as if there is one clear answer. One face. One story. One version of events. But royal marriages are never that simple. From the outside, marriage looks like a celebration. An announcement. A photograph. A date remembered. Inside a palace, marriage is something else entirely. It is strategy. Stability. Continuity. Love, if it exists, is expected to follow later, quietly. He was raised knowing one thing before he understood his own emotions. His personal life would never be only personal. Every major decision would carry consequences far beyond himself. Every choice would be measured against legacy, not longing. That includes marriage. The truth about royal marriage is this. It is rarely about who you love. It is about what must be protected. Bloodlines. Alliances. Public confidence. Future authority. And sometimes, the heart is asked to wait indefinitely. People wonder why so little is known. Why details are scarce. Why silence surrounds the subject. That silence is not accidental. In royal families, privacy is not freedom. It is containment. A royal marriage does not need public romance to function. It needs predictability. Affection can be private. Understanding can be quiet. Distance can exist without explanation. As long as stability remains intact. What many fail to understand is that silence does not always mean absence. Sometimes it means boundaries. Sometimes it means protection. Sometimes it means a decision to keep something sacred. Or unresolved. Away from public judgment. Royal families do not explain their emotional realities. They manage perception. Because perception maintains order. There is also a truth people rarely accept. A marriage can exist legally, structurally, and socially, without being the center of someone's emotional life. That does not make it false. It makes it royal. In royal culture, love is not denied. It is postponed, redirected, reframed, and sometimes quietly sacrificed. People often confuse mystery with scandal. But mystery is simply the result of a life lived under control. A life where not every chapter is meant to be read aloud. The truth about Sheikh Hamdan's marriage is not a headline. It is a reality shaped by duty. A reality where public silence does not equal personal emptiness. And where love, if it exists, is expected to coexist with responsibility, not replace it. Royal marriages are designed to endure pressure, not satisfy curiosity. They are built to last through politics, transition, and scrutiny. Romance is optional. Stability is not. Time becomes silence. So when people ask for the truth, what they are really asking is for access. Access to a life that was never meant to be lived openly. The real truth is this. Royal marriages are not fairy tale endings. They are careful beginnings. And what happens after the ceremony belongs not to the public, but to the weight of responsibility carried quietly behind palace walls. That is the truth most people are not prepared to accept. Because it is not dramatic. It is disciplined. There is another part of the truth that rarely gets said out loud. Royal marriages are not designed to answer emotional questions. They are designed to prevent instability. And instability is the one thing a crown cannot afford. In families where power is inherited, love is never just love. It is influence. It is leverage. It is risk. So marriage becomes a structure. A framework that keeps everything balanced when emotions threaten to tilt it. This is why the public never sees what it expects to see. No public affection. No personal explanations. No clarification of rumors. Because explanation invites interpretation. And interpretation invites loss of control. Silence in this world is not avoidance. It is policy. People often assume that a quiet marriage means an unhappy one. That assumption is unfair, but also incomplete. Royal relationships are not measured by visibility. They are measured by continuity, by how well roles are maintained, by how effectively responsibilities are shared, by how little disruption reaches the surface. Love exists. But it exists under supervision, under timing, under condition, under consequence. It is allowed as long as it does not interfere with duty. And when duty and desire collide, desire is expected to step back, quietly, without protest. This is not cruelty. It is tradition shaped by centuries of risk. Royal families learned long ago that emotional choices can undo generations of planning. So they built systems where emotion does not lead. The truth about Sheikh Hamdan's marriage is not scandal, secrecy, or deception. It is structure. A life lived with more responsibility than freedom. A role where personal happiness must coexist with public obligation, even when that coexistence is uncomfortable. This is why speculation never ends. Because the public is searching for emotion, and royalty is built on restraint. What looks like distance is often discipline. What looks like silence is often intention. What looks like mystery is often protection. And perhaps the most honest truth of all is this. Some stories are never meant to be completed publicly. They are lived quietly, adjusted privately, and carried without explanation. So when you ask for the truth, remember this. The truth is not hidden behind locked doors. It is hidden behind responsibility. Royal marriages do not exist to satisfy curiosity. They exist to preserve continuity. And continuity, in this world, matters more than it offers discipline. And discipline, unlike love stories, rarely looks beautiful from the outside, even when it is holding an entire future together. That is the truth about Sheikh Hamdan's marriage. Not the one whispered in rumors, but the one lived quietly behind palace walls. There is also a quiet burden that comes with living this way. When your life is shaped by responsibility, you are rarely allowed to explain yourself. People assume. They speculate. They create stories where silence exists. And you are expected to carry those stories without correcting them, because correction would invite vulnerability. And vulnerability in royal life is never casual. A marriage inside a palace is not lived in moments. It is lived in balance. Balance between public duty and private reality. Between expectation and endurance. Between what is seen and what is deliberately unseen. That balance requires restraint. And restraint requires silence. Another truth people struggle to accept is this. Not everything quiet is broken. Some things are simply contained. Royal families learn early that not every emotion needs expression. Not every challenge needs explanation. Not every relationship needs validation from the outside world. The absence of visible romance does not always mean the absence of understanding. Sometimes it means two people agreeing, consciously or unconsciously, to protect something larger than themselves. This is why outsiders often misunderstand royal marriages. They look for gestures, for statements, for proof. This distance may become mutual understanding, but those changes happen away from cameras and away from commentary. The truth is not that emotion is absent. The truth is that emotion is controlled, and control over time becomes habit. People often ask why nothing is ever clarified, why rumors are allowed to circulate, why speculation is ignored. Because in royal life, denial gives stories oxygen. Silence lets them fade. There is also wisdom in restraint. Explaining personal decisions to the public creates expectations. Expectations create pressure. Pressure creates instability. And instability is something a crown is trained to prevent at all costs. So what remains unsaid is not always painful. Sometimes it is protective. Protective of individuals. Protective of families. Protective of futures that depend on calm continuity. The hardest part of this truth is accepting that some lives are not lived for self-expression. They are lived for preservation. And preservation rarely looks emotional. This is why royal marriages resist modern narratives. They do not exist to